Your email marketing sucks. What's happening? J.C Agajanian here, broker associate with the Whissel Realty Group at eXp, bringing you the recap of the Monday morning mastermind as we do every week. Today we had three great topics, the first of which surrounding around door knocking and bringing more value. How can we do this better, right? The next one, taking advantage of an already really strong social following. Are you in that position? Do you have a really great thing going with your social media app of your choice? If so, let's figure out how to take advantage of that and really grow your business and not just grow your online following. And finally, we're going to talk about email marketing. There's always changing theories and philosophies about how best to get through the spam filters, get the opens and reds made so that you're actually accomplishing what you're trying to with your email marketing. So let's get straight into it. First, we're going to talk about some door knocking. What value can you really offer when you are door knocking? One of the agents in the mastermind spoke up and asked specifically around luxury door knocking. That's what he was doing, but most of these responses and answers in the conversation that we had surrounded around door knocking in general, and it was pretty much no different as to whether you're knocking an entry-level neighborhood or one that's gonna have an average price point of $2 to $3 million. First and foremost, what is your main angle? What is the motive that you're taking here? What are you trying to accomplish? And the reason that was brought up is because some people door knock with specific reasons. Maybe they've got a buyer who has been unable to take down a property in that neighborhood. It's just too competitive, and maybe their existing budget is very close to entry-level price, the list price of these homes in the neighborhood, and you know you're gonna have to go above it. This is who they are. They just had a kid. They got a cute little bulldog. Don't you wanna sell your home to these people? That is a very good angle to take because you've got something of value. You've got someone pre-approved who wants this neighborhood, who is ready to go right now. That's a strong door knock, right? You've got something that everybody else doesn't have. That's a guy ready to go now who wants your property, right? So is that your angle? Or are you just kind of like hunting for listings? You know, are you just trying to build your book of business in this neighborhood and you're looking to meet people who may want to sell now or in the near future? Now that's a very different approach, and you're going to have a different script and a different leave behind, a different offer for a general knock as opposed to someone for a specific buyer like I just talked about. There's lots of different scripts that you can use. There's different ways that you can make it short and to the point. We talked about body language specifically. I mean, some people get upset just answering the door. And, I've used it myself. And then one of the agents today just spoke up and said, I literally put my hands up one time because the person looked so peeved that I was knocking on the door. And you say, I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm coming to you with information today. I'm just giving you information. She segued that conversation into a great opener or a great way to get the person behind the door to start thinking a little more openly and a little more like, okay, I'm not on guard. I'm not, ready to just look for a way to say no as fast as possible. But the simple thing of saying, do you know how much that house down the street sold for? Or do you know how much I sold that house for? Or do you know how much my team or my company? Do you know how much somehow, some way that home sold? Just doing that where if they wanted to, they could jump on Zillow or Redfin or Realtor or Trulia or all the other websites, but it's something that's been proven. It's something that has been tested. It's a line that people have used that actually opens people up on the other side. And then what you can do is obviously you need to get to the point, hey, there's, 4 people, 5 people that missed out on that property. They would love to buy one just like yours. Any chance you're moving anytime soon? Okay, no. In some cases, it's better to go the other way. Ask them about the neighbors first. Hey, who do you know who's got a home that they may be considering moving on from? Because like I said, there was 4 people that missed out on this property right down the street, and we'd love to slide them into you. Oh, nobody? Oh, cool. Well, how long do you think you'll be in your home? You think you'll be moving someday? Or is this your forever home? Use real definitive comments like that, because a lot of times people say, oh no, this isn't my forever home. When I retire, I'm going to go to the islands, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that. Cool. So you can usually get a no, I'm never going to sell down to something a little more realistic. And you never know. Sometimes that more realistic time frame. Could be 6 months to a year from now. Sometimes it could be 2 to 5 years from now. Whatever the case, you've now got a prospective seller at some point in the future. And if you do your job following up with them well, stay in front of them, you'll develop a relationship with them, and hopefully you will be the person they call when the time is right. So just a little bit of context, a little bit of understanding of what's going on behind the scenes and in our minds when we're knocking on these doors and where we're trying to take the conversation and what we're trying to do. The main result of this really, unless someone raises their hand and says, yeah, actually I'm looking to sell pretty soon, because that's very rare when you're door knocking, the main result that you're trying to drive to is to get to a point where they give you their email for a follow-up on valuations. We have a system called HomeBot. We've talked about it a bunch on these masterminds. We use it all the time. It's really good for presenting comparable home sale data to clients on a monthly basis in their inbox. It's very interactive. So a great line to wrap that up and to get that email with what's happening in the area. That could go in a million different directions. It's a very vague, very open-ended question. But what we're trying to get at is, do you have anybody telling you what your home's worth on a regular basis, right? That's the point of the question. Hey, how do you stay up to date with what's happening in your area? Oh, well, what do you mean? I mean, I get the local newspaper that's just kind of gives us happening. No, I'm talking about the homes that are selling within your neighborhood. Who's keeping you up to date, making sure you know what your home's worth based on the other market activity? Oh, I don't have anybody like that. Or they might give you a name because maybe their best friend is their realtor who does that. It's better to find out right away that this person is never going to be a good use of my time and it will always be a waste because they're committed to this person, as opposed to the response you're going to get most of the time, which is, I don't have anybody doing that. So how do you stay up to date with what's happening in the area? Cool. Well, you know what? I don't want to bother you on a regular basis, and I really don't want to waste my own time either, but I do offer some of my clients a regular update. It's just one email once a month. Gives you a good idea of what's happened over the last month, how it's affecting your home's value, what sort of options you may have. Does that seem like it'd be helpful for you? Cool. What's the best email for you? Don't look at them. Look away or look down, write the email, right? That's the best way to get the email. You move on. Now you've got a name. Now you've got an email. Now you've got a property address. You can jump online and fill in the missing pieces, and now you've got a solid contact that you've put into your database that you will be able to follow in for a long-term nurture for the future. But the important part in all this door knocking business is being consistent. Because knocking once in a neighborhood because you landed a listing there and you're doing some work, maybe you'll stumble across someone who's got a friend who's a buyer or something, but it's never going to be anywhere nearly as productive as consistently hitting the same neighborhood you are focused on selling homes in. That's the basis of your farm, and then you add the other activities to it. The open houses in your farm, the neighborhood or community events in your farm, the circle dialing in your farm. All these things contribute to you selling homes in that area, and door knocking is the lead. Don't forget postcards, snail mail, email, all these things. So they're all contributing factors to you really moving in and taking over a neighborhood. Like I said, with door knocking leading the way. Finally, before we move on, remember the reflex no, right? You've got to anticipate it. You've got to recognize it, and you've got to remember that it's not really a no. It's just the first one you're looking for to push past and get to a real answer. So it's always going to be there. And as a reminder, the reflex no is the same thing that you've done a million times. I know I've done it too. Say you're in a store, you're looking for shoes, and you tell the person who approaches you right away, "Nah, I'm just looking." Well, you're not just looking. You're there to buy some shoes. And only when you've actually found something you could use some help with, do you flag that person down and say, actually, I could use your help over here. I'm not just looking. I need to see if you've got this in a different color and in my size, right? So that's when you're actually asking the person for help. We need to recognize that reflex no, and we need to know that it's time for us to move past it and get going into the real motivation, the real discovery of what's going on. And a great way to do that is just say, if you were going to move, where would you go? Or if you were going to go somewhere, when would that be? You know, getting down into a little more digging and deeper conversation is a great way to find out what the real story is. Because but in most cases, they're not going anywhere anytime soon. but there is some story that's going on in the back of their mind, some conversation that's being had with their spouse or partner or about going somewhere someday. And if that's not the case, they've probably talked about living and dying in this home and never going anywhere. And you can probably get to that discovery as well. But you need to know what the real deal is. So that's kind of where we wrapped it up. Don't forget to get to the true motivation. And for most cases, when you're door knocking, the goal is going to be to get that piece of information, the email address that you're looking for, give them something of value on a monthly basis, and follow up accordingly. That's it for that topic. We're going to move straight on to the scenario in which someone's got a great social media following. They're doing really well with their videos. They're getting lots of interest, but it's not translating into sold homes. So what do you do in that situation? So we took a question from one of the mastermind members asking us to have a look at this person's, social media platform. And I think it was more than 13 or 14,000 followers on TikTok already, primarily on the back of doing walkthrough tours, videos of very nice homes, mostly luxury level homes where he lives in Texas. The idea is the person is having great response, right? He's doing well. He's got this strong following, but it seemed kind of impersonal. He's just like, hey, this is the property. This is the stats. This is what it is. Here's the cool features. And he walks through. And that's what people are loving, but we're not getting an understanding of who he is. We're not getting an understanding of his personality. If he is an intellectual, more of a nerdy type of guy, or if he's funny and outgoing and, is making jokes about the property. We don't see any of that. We don't know who he is at all, because all he's doing is just giving the information, walking us through the home. And so far that's doing great for his page count and his view count and his follower count, but it's not translating into lots of activity and sold homes. So what we want to do is we want to take the engagement that he's got online, and this is going to go for anything, whether it's TikTok or Instagram or Facebook that you're using or Snapchat or whatever your favorite site is if you're using Twitter. But you've got to take the engagement, move it into DMs, and then take the DMs and take them offline. That's the whole goal of all this. You've got to create these communications from what you're doing and make them genuine, make them real conversations instead of just, a thumbs up or a wave or some sort of fire emoji or whatever the case may be. One of the tried and true things that put Kyle, who owns our company and runs this mastermind on together, on the map for video is doing just local food reviews and walkthroughs of restaurants. This is entertainment on a different level. This is entertainment that's a lot more similar to TV, like a diners, drive-ins, and dives experience than it is to social media. But he took that idea, brought it to our local level, made it as professional as he could, and put it on socials instead of some other network, right? So making something entertaining, making something local, and of course doing something that everybody loves, like food, is a great way to go. But of course, the goal being to drive DMs, communication, and then take that communication offline into in person, or at least into phone or email of something like that. Hot tip today, check out ManyChat. It's a great bot that you can install into your Meta Messages app. And you can tell people, hey, let's say you're highlighting some bit of information, like you're talking to realtors and you've got 5 tips of what to do to make sure you launch your listing the best or something like that. Well, you can say, hey, DM me 5 tips list in the DMs, and ManyChat will actually recognize that word that you told people to DM you, and it'll automatically send them the requested information. So instead of being so busy with everything that you're doing to have to go back and finally, respond to someone who asked you for something that you talked about in your video, ManyChat will come in here and do it for you. Now you're free to just open up this conversation further, like I said, and bring it to a more suitable destination from the DMs. So great little tool right there. But in the end, all of this stuff that we're doing, really, it's branding. We want people on all the different channels, no matter what they're using, we want to be, present on as many as possible just to see that we're staying busy, to know what we're doing, to know who we are, to get to know us personally as much as that can be done through the channels of social media, and to develop that understanding of a little bit of a know you more, like you more, maybe even trust you some as well, all through this multimedia channel called social media that we're using. Another thing that you can do to inspire and create engagement is to talk up specific programs. Like one of the agents mentioned, they have a renovate before you sell program that they offer. And she realized, and she actually brought this up and reminded all of us, hey, people forget stuff. You can reuse the same content, the same purposeful messaging in different ways, because it's not like you can actually recycle the same stinking pieces if you want. You could probably do that every 2 or 3 quarters. Just go back and start going back to the well, because we see so much, we scroll so much. Nobody's going to remember exactly whether or not that photo was reused or the whole post in general. This is something she wants to drive home. She wants to be known as the company who can help somebody renovate their home before they sell. She wants people to raise their hand and be like, you know what, can you tell me a little bit more of that thing? I'd like to sell my house, but my kitchen, I've never loved it since I moved into it, and we never renovated it for ourselves. We should probably do it before we sell. Like, that's the goal, is to get people to raise their hand and say that type of stuff to you. So if that's what she wants to drive home, she should reintroduce that same messaging in as many different ways as she can, spaced out a little bit, but with regularity, so that she is known as the person who can help you with that. What are you doing in your business that is like your renovate before you can sell that you would want to be known for? What do you want to drive home? Think about that. Think about creative ways you can present the information. Think about various different benefits and reasons it's good for your prospective client, and talk about it in multiple different ways. It's a great tip on the social media front that we got today. All right, we got to move on from the social media, and we're going to move into email marketing. And the reason I said your email marketing sucks is because you're probably using tips and tricks that were popular a long time ago, instead of the most up-to-date, most cutting-edge, most recent data that's actually going to tell us who's getting opens, who's sliding into the inbox instead of hitting spam, who's actually getting read, and who's getting click-throughs, right? This is how we evaluate email marketing, is what is actually happening once you send it off, right? So in the past, you wanted it to look as professional as possible. You wanted to have a cool branded header with your photo and lots of information, phone numbers, office address, all this stuff. Then you've got logos for each of your thing, and then maybe you've got some recipes, or maybe you've got some community events. You've all seen these tired old email newsletters. They've got to go away. Not because we hate them, but mostly because they're not working very well. And I don't know about you, but when I see those, I click delete as fast as I possibly can. What we want to do is make this email look as though it was not a campaign of any sort that you put together in efforts to reach as many people as possible. You want it to look like an email that was individually written from yourself to that one person on the other side of the inbox. That's the goal, right? We've gotten all the way to the other side of, we're not trying to look professional. We're not trying to bloat ourselves up and make ourselves look bigger than we are. We're trying to make it as real as possible. That's the new goal of email marketing. And this is the conversation that we had in the mastermind this morning. So how do you do this? I mean, this is a great overarching understanding of the different paradigm between, leaving the 90s and early 2000s image of what an email newsletter ought to be, and stepping squarely in to this new world of AI and everything else that's going on. And frankly, this new world of busyness. People's inboxes are now feeling more like their mailboxes at home, stuffed full of junk, where you have to sort it over the waste paper basket, right, before you get to the stuff that actually needs to be responded to, like bills or something you're actually interested in, like that nice little check for $100 from your grandma on your birthday. So we got to understand the state of affairs with our inboxes right now. We got to keep these emails lightweight. And what we mean by that is reduce the clutter, eliminate the branding, take the photos, the heavy. When we talk about lightweight, we're talking about megabyte size. We want to have as little weight, just text, as possible. We want to get rid of big images. And if you're going to have stuff that you feel like really fits with your message, maybe a larger image or a photo or something, go find a website somewhere that will crunch the size of that piece of artwork down as small as possible, but the overall weight of that email, the amount of megabytes it's taking to send across channels, is as small as possible. In this day and age, all the different email providers are actually concerned about that. It used to be unlimited, do as much as you want, but now there's just so much email flying around that they can't handle it, and they're actually giving more priority to these lighter weight, more streamlined emails that look more like normal communication, and it's a lot easier for bulky, cluttery, heavy emails to get stopped up through spam, and then once they do, if they don't get stopped up through spam and they make it to the inbox, someone's eyeballs are going to see it and go, this looks like junk. So that's the main point we're getting with the current state of affairs, with what we're doing now with email marketing. The uglier, the better. Response rates go up with 1 or 2 sentences in the email entirely, and cut out the multiple calls to action. If you want them to do something, ask them to do one thing in that email. Don't ask them to do lots of things, because the confused mind does nothing. Keep it as short as possible, maybe a sentence or 2, certainly not more than a paragraph or 2. You've got to keep it brief and keep those paragraphs short. And when it comes to calling them to do something for you, keep it to one thing. Don't ask them to do more than one thing. You might even consider leaving a typo or 2 in here and there, leaving some misspellings. This is all with the interest of making this email look as real as possible, so that it's like you sat there and typed it out one for one to the person receiving it on the other end. Okay? Don't forget about the super old school concept of the PS. It actually stands for postscript, in case you don't know. And you can follow up a brief email with a PS as like some sort of offer. Maybe, you can say, hey, PS, we've got a couple off-market properties that our team is working on. If you or anyone you know are looking for something to buy and would love to not compete with other buyers in this competitive market, let me know. A quality offer could be a great PS in the bottom or the postscript after you've written the majority of your email. Keep it informative, keep it helpful, offer, things that maybe somebody else didn't think of offering. Another thing you can do is consider sending out team listings before they go to market. So maybe not just having an offer like that of something off market, but whenever you've got new listings getting ready to hit the market that week. We've got a company of about 100 agents nowadays. So I could see us, implementing something like this where every maybe Monday or Tuesday before we go launch a listing on that Wednesday or Thursday of that week, we can send an email out to everybody in our database saying, hey, here's your sneak peek. People like to feel special. People like to have something offered to them that everybody else doesn't have. So here's the sneak peek of the team listings we're bringing to market this week. It does multiple things. It makes them feel special, makes them feel like they have an inside track into something, and you're also reaffirming to them, we are cranking out listings. If you ever know anybody that needs to sell their home, we're the team to do it, because we do this every single week. It's a great idea that we may have to implement ourselves. I'll have to talk to some people about that. But finally, before we go, we could talk a little bit about split testing as well. If you haven't dug into email marketing very deeply yet, split testing is a great thing to do when you just are getting granular on it. You're going to test maybe the same exact piece of content, but with a different subject line. So let's see if this subject line gets more opens than this one. You can set it up in MailChimp or whatever service that you use, and you could say, split test these two subject lines, and you give it a certain amount of time or maybe a certain amount of contacts in your database, and then it will find out which one is doing better, because everything is identical in these two emails, except for the people that they're going to and the subject lines that you're using. And then once you find out which one is the best, send the rest out with that one, and there you go. You've got an automatically improved deliverable email just from doing a little bit of testing up front. You can do this with 2 or 3 different subject lines. You can also do the same thing with offerings that you're making inside the email with the PS that we talked about. You can split test just about everything in that piece. So get into it and find out how best to reach your audience. But we are going to wrap it up right there. I hope you have found some helpful information, picked up maybe a cool tip or two. Not that just is good to know, but you can take and implement into your business right away. So shoot me a DM if you've got any questions or comments about any of this stuff. I'd love to chat with you about it. I'll talk to you soon.